Welcome, everyone, to the pregame cheat sheet. I'm Darren Smith along with Steve Walls, and we are back here live at the scene of the last crime last time the Kansas City Chiefs played here. We're live from Raymond James Stadium, where the Chiefs take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers tonight on Sunday Night Football, 8:20 here local time, 7:20 back in Kansas City. Steve, I guess welcome back to where it all took place last time.
Exciting. Yeah, man, I think if we're feeling this way, the team has to be feeling this way. Well, at least the guys who were here, the main core group who were here back in 2020 or 2021. What, was it 2021?
It was the 2020 season, but the game played in 2021.
Yes. Well, the last Super Bowl that they were in against Tom Brady. And so I think if we're feeling that way, those guys are feeling that way as well.
Of course, last time these two teams played was in the Super Bowl. The Chiefs lost that game. I believe it was like 33-9 or something to that effect. I know they came all the way down and then they kicked 3 field goals. So something that we hope to not have to reminisce once again. But Tampa Bay, both teams are coming out from a loss last week in week number 3. The Bucks against the Green Bay Packers here at home last week, late afternoon Sunday game, and then of course Kansas City Chiefs losing a game they probably should have won and never should have had the business even losing that game against the Indianapolis Colts on last week. Steve, both teams come in 2-1. We see what's currently going on in the division. The Bucks, actually the Packers and the Patriots are tied at 24. Of course, in the AFC West, we've got 25 Las Vegas lead over the Denver Broncos. Of course, the Raiders are who the Chiefs host on next Monday night.
It's interesting because a lot of mix-up this week. Team didn't know if they were going to be playing here in Tampa Bay or going to New Orleans or Minnesota. And finally, it was going to be Minnesota until the hurricane, hit south of here. And prayers to the folks that were affected by the hurricane, hoping that they are able to bounce back from this thing. But the team, they didn't know. And so when it was finally announced on Thursday evening, Friday morning that it was going to be here, it was like, okay. Now it's going to be an outdoors game. It's going to be sunny, of course, night game. But the temperature feels great here. It's low 70 degrees, and the fact that there's a lot of Chiefs fans. We talked to some other media members in the press box, and everyone was like, a lot of Chiefs fans coming from Kansas City.
Yeah, there was some on my flight. I know your flight as well.
And it's interesting now, because we've covered this team the past few years, gone to every game, and past few years, it's building up. More fans are traveling. We see the Bears fans travel, Green Bay, Minnesota. So the Chiefs Kingdom, they're showing up to these games, and I think that could help them here in Tampa Bay tonight.
And it's interesting because you look at the cost of tickets, and of course, a lot of people like ourselves, we got our tickets early on once the schedule was announced, and of course, we're not knowing the travel arrangement was going to work out this week. It was good. Everything, a lot of some people's flights got canceled because they were coming earlier than Friday, but everyone else who didn't, everything stayed the same. And of course, we are here live at James Stadium right now. So, Steve, of course, we all know why a lot of people came to this matchup. But you and I, we were on the elevator just coming. Get ready for the show, but it's really about Tom Brady against Patrick Mahomes, and that's what everybody's looking for. This is going to be the 6th matchup between the quarterbacks from their respective squads. Tom Brady leads the all-time series 3-2 against Patrick. Obviously, they're not going to be on the field at the same time together, but knowing that this is the face of Tom Brady being the face of the league for so many years, Patrick Mahomes a new face. You got the old who is still playing as a television and doesn't seem to be trying to relinquish the throne anytime soon. What are you looking forward to in those matchups between Brady and Mahomes and what they do with their receivers?
Yeah, so Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, that is the reason we're here. That's the reason why they want to see. So when you thought it in, you said there's 6 matchups. Patrick coming in here at prime time wants to even that matchup. He wants to even it and let it be 3-3. Because I don't feel like he's going to be able to play Tom Brady again unless they possibly both teams make the Super Bowl. So I think this is that game where he said, all right, I can have Tom Brady ride out to the sunset knowing that, he got me in the big games, AFC Championship game back in 2018, I believe, and then, Super Bowl 2021. And so this season will be the season that he'll be able to even the score.
Yeah, so this is one of those things where, and actually, if I remember correctly, it is. Yeah, 'cause I know the first time they played was actually in New England. That first year they lost that game. It was a big team, and then of course Brady won in the AFC Championship game, and then Mahomes and then won it in New England the following.
Yes.
So yeah. So and then of course the first time they played here in Tampa Bay in the regular season, with Tyreek went off for three touchdowns, I think in the first quarter, and then of course the Super Bowl where they did what they did. But looking at this, of course, Brady last week was without all of his his main receivers, Mike Evans because of suspension, Julio Jones and Chris Godwin because they were injured. He gets them all back in tonight's game. How big of a factor, knowing that they lost, I believe it was like 14-12 last week against the Green Bay Packers, is that going to be for this Bucs offense? Now, granted, the offense really hasn't been clicking, even with those players being healthy and being there for first couple weeks of the season. But how does the return of those three players benefit the Bucs in tonight's game?
It's going to benefit the Bucs a lot. When you have a guy like Cole Beasley, who's able to play the slot, Mike Evans, who's a big wide receiver, big target. It's going to be tough for these Chiefs defensive backs to be able to guard these guys. I mean, we saw what happens when the quarterback of an opposing team finds a target that he likes. He goes at whoever that matchup is that he wants to exploit. And Tom Brady's great at that. Yeah. So I would look for them to go at a guy like Rashad Fenton or L'Jarius Sneed. Fenton's a guy that's been targeted a lot. If you think back to not only the Arizona Cardinals game, but just throughout his career, his short-lived career here in Kansas City, he's been a guy that has drawn penalties. Yeah. He's created not only some against opposing teams, but also on himself as well, just doing some dumb things. So I think it's going to be a long night for the Chiefs defensive backs. And when you think about the way Tom Brady, like I said, wants to exploit the defense, right? He's going to find different keys that he's seen on film, especially last week going up against the Colts. A team that, and I know we're going to get into a little bit more, but the Colts, a team that should not have beat this team. A team that when you look at them on paper, this Chiefs team is much better. So I feel like Tom Brady has watched the film and is going to be able to try to exploit that.
All right, what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick, so I want to know if we may need to take a quick time of getting the text saying that we are, the audio's a little hard to hear, so we're trying to work on that at the moment. Okay, it's a little bit better. I want to ask you this though. So let's jump into certain matchups now. Looking at it from the defensive point of view, we did get a chance. I know I got a chance to talk to Justin Reed earlier this week, and obviously the big deal is the defense against this particular offense. Got a chance to talk to him. Got a chance to get his thoughts on what it's going to take for the defense up against Brady. That's what he had to say.
Show our game all the time. Not allow him to just stand in the pocket and get comfortable and really get in the rhythm. He has a ton of talent around him. They recently brought in Cole Beasley. He's always had a slot receiver like that, whether it's Julian Edelman or any of the long list of guys in his career. So being able to contain him in a sense of taking away his first targets and Cole Beasley, Mike Evans, not letting the run game start with Leonard Fournette, and just not letting him be comfortable in the pocket.
So, of course, hearing Justin Reed, obviously, one of the big things that they said they're going to have to do, got to stop the run. Now, that's something that the Bucs have been utilizing a lot since the beginning of the season to kind of help Tom Brady, knowing they didn't have the receivers, how they're going to be. It's the run game with Leonard Fournette. Yes. Again, he's a heavy bell cow back. He was splitting time with Ronald Jones the last time these two teams played. What can we look forward to against Leonard Fournette in this game tonight?
Similar to what the Chiefs did they're going to have to defend them, similar to what the Chiefs did last week, against the Colts. It's uphill, because if you don't, we try to meet him at the point of contact, which is the line of scrimmage, he's going to make you look silly. And I think Nick Bolton and company will try to figure out some type of ways to be able to stop him and make someone else beat them. Make it have to go to Rashad White. Make another guy have to come in and figure out a way to beat this Chiefs team.
All right, what we're going to do, take a quick timeout. Take a timeout. We're going to get the audio fix over being told that we're having some audio issues. So we're going to take a quick, let's go do the 5-minute deal, and we'll be right back. Steve and I with the pregame cheat sheet. All right, we're back here live at Raymond James Stadium. Hope we got the audio issues taken care of. Steve, these two teams have faced off 13 times, where the Bucs have literally won 5 of the last 6 regular season meetings between these two teams. They lead the all-time series 7-2. Andy Reid, this is one of the few teams that Andy Reid doesn't have. Well, he barely has a winning record. He's 7-6 against them all time, but most of that comes from the time as the head coach of the Green Bay Packers. Todd Bowles, head coach of this team, of the Bucs. Of course, he was a defensive coordinator that instituted the two high safety that gave the Chiefs all kinds of fits in the Super Bowl. And of course, on the defensive side of the football for this team, you got Shaq Barrett. I mean, they have a lot of the players back from that Super Bowl team 2 years ago. One of the players is not there, obviously, is Ndamukong Suh. But what about this defense? They are the number one defensive team in the league. What type of issues, what kind of problems is that going to bring to Kansas City tonight, especially if Patrick Mahomes is not on target with his receivers as he was in last week in Indianapolis?
Well, like you said, they put together the defensive playbook to figure out how to beat this Chiefs team. But and that being said, that was against Tyreek Hill, a guy who torched them for 200 yards in the first half early on in that season, last time in that Super Bowl season, last time they played. So, I mean, now it's a little different, right? I mean, you have 2 other receivers on that Chiefs team, 3 other receivers, including Justin Watson, and MVS and Juju Smith-Schuster, that you really don't know what they can be yet. When you look at this Chiefs offense, I mean, the past 3 games, Patrick Mahomes hasn't dialed into one guy. It's been spread out over 9, 10 different receivers, including the running backs. So with that being said, I mean, it's going to be a little different from when they last played, because you just don't know what this offense can be.
I got to ask the question. I know we kind of talked about it. We touched on it a little bit in Indianapolis, but the fact that Patrick has yet to really make a connection with Juju. I know he kind of tried to last week's game. I think Juju was the leading receiver.
Yeah.
Kelsey really hasn't had the start of the season as we normally expect him to have. Obviously, he's been trying to build something with Marquez, and it was just announced that he is active in tonight's game, so he will have him. I think McCall Hardman should be healthy in tonight's game, but is it too much to say that he hasn't been clicking just yet with his receivers, and because of that might be what's going on with the slow start. But if anything else, in tonight's game, he has to have that connection with him, because we know what kind of defense is going to be going. Yeah. That's going to be coming after Patrick Mahomes. And if one of the things that we haven't talked about, we talked about it right quick, is that in that Super Bowl, it was a makeshift offensive line. Yeah. So they have 5 new starters. Well, I think Andrew Wiley might have been a starter in that game, but I know they have 4 new starters on this offensive line since the last time they played this team in the Super Bowl. Give me your estimation on how this offensive line is going to shape up against this Bucs defense, and then also the importance of Patrick Mahomes making sure that he is on target tonight with his receivers.
Yeah, first things first, the offensive line. I mean, those guys, you look at them from last year, and we keep going back to the past, but I mean, that's all we have right now, like I said, because it's still early. But when you think about how they played last year, they were new, right? They were new, trying to gel together. Only guy that was a veteran on this offensive line was Orlando Brown and Joe Toney, right? So you having the Trey Smith and the other guys that came in as rookies last year, and this year they tried to mesh together. They've gelled. They, of course, last year made it to the AFC Championship game. They know what it takes to get there, and we just haven't seen that physical offensive line that we saw last year. For whatever reason, I don't know if it's because of Coach Reid talked about Orlando Brown being a little banged up. Trey Smith, we know he's a little banged up. So when you think about just that offensive line and how these guys have meshed, I haven't seen it yet. just haven't seen. You talked about they want to be physical, this and that, but I just haven't seen it from them. And it's possible just because it's still early. It's possible because we talked about it being a domino effect, right? Yeah. The offense, the receivers haven't clicked, the running backs haven't clicked, and so once that happens, it's just one of those things that's kind of spread throughout this offense.
Yeah. So look, looking forward to tonight's game. Give me your keys to success for Kansas City to win this matchup.
I think they need to be able to be well-rounded as far as running the game, running the ball. I think Clyde has to be good. I think Clyde, if you look at last week, and this has happened 2 years in a row, where he started out game one on fire and then kind of went downhill from there. And I know the last 2 seasons were due to injury, but he's not injured now. He's healthy. I think he has to be better. Even though they've been trying to, include him in the passing game a little bit more, which is his strength. However, you've got to sometimes do some things that you don't really aren't accustomed to doing. And I think, he has to be better as far as, being in the passing game and also in the running game. And also getting a number. You gotta find your number one receiver. You just do. Some people say, we talked to Danny Hughes in our pregame, not pregame, in our Red Hour Monday night show. And Dana said, hey, you can either have a strong number one or a couple of legit number twos. And I don't think these guys are number twos. They don't get me wrong, they were number twos on their respective teams last year.
Well, June was the number one on this team.
Well,
he was
yeah. they want to be number one. And I think they have to start playing that way. And Patrick has to find these guys and make sure that he has a legit number one.
Who wins tonight's game and what is the score? Sunday Night Football. Now, I mean, this is a revenge type game, but of course, there's no Super Bowl title on the line. It's bragging rights for the night.
I think it's going to be the Chiefs. They're coming in with a lot more to prove than this Tampa Bay Bucs team. Tom Brady's proven. He's still trying to write his guys on the correct path for this season. They've been slow. Things off the field haven't gone his way, and just early retirement and things like that. But I feel like this Chiefs team is coming in with a lot to prove, and they're trying to get stay ahead in this AFC run.
Kansas City is a 1-point favorite. I got the Chiefs win. I think it does go down. I think this is one of the games that will actually go down to the wire between Tom Brady and Patrick. I think they win the game. 28-24. I do think that the Chiefs offensively, it comes down to execution. I think that they can fix more of what did not take place in last week's game against the Colts versus the struggle that Tom Brady has had.
How easy is it to fix that? How easy is it to fix that, though?
Some of it was just execution. I mean, drop passes and Patrick overthrowing the receiver. Now, again, that's going to be key is whether or not he can be on target with his receiver. He's going to have to be because Shaq Barrett, they're going to be physical. They're going to blitz. They're going to go. Because, like you said, they're going to challenge him. I think that they will actually double Kelsey. So I don't think Kelsey's going to be a factor in tonight's game. I think they're going to make Patrick pick a receiver and make him beat you in the passing game.
Which is that number one receiver that he has to find.
Which is going to be interesting to say the least.
And since you brought up Patrick, he has to be better.
Oh, yeah.
When we talk about Tom Brady, we talk about these other all-time great quarterbacks, how they were able to make their teams better. Some guys who they could bring out anybody. Me and you could be playing wide receiver, and they could make them better. So I think Tom Brady has to be better.
All right, so that does it for Steve and I in the pregame cheat sheet. Remember to follow us on our respective platforms. We'll be bringing you the post-game presser as well as locker room interviews after the game tonight. And then we'll also be back on the field with the post-game show after the game tonight. And
if you're at home, remember, you got to stop by Gates Barbecue to make sure that your pregame meal is right. And tell them that the guys from the pregame cheat sheet sent you.
Yep. And before we get out of here, Steve, as always, we are sharp. Everybody's been complimenting our outfits. Please let everybody know who styled you for tonight's game.
You go talk to my guys over at Dillard's on the Rosa. Look, I had a couple guys from 41. They asked me to, how they were going to be able to be styled, and I sent them over. And Heather and Jeff got them right. So make sure that you go over and talk to my good friends over at Dillard's on the Rosa. They can take care of your game day look.
Now, I'm going to tell you one thing. If Mark Donovan doesn't come by you and say, man, you're giving me that Cincinnati Bengals vibe, I'm going to be mad at him because you got that going on. Anyway, one thing is always Todd White and Todd's Clothiers and Taylor Suits for getting me right, of course, in my matchup with Patrick Mahomes. I think I got him again this week. So, Patrick, I know you came tight, but as they say, you didn't wear the vest today. I did. So, but look, as always, we want to thank Gates Barbecue. Thank you to Dillard. Thank you to Todd. And again, make sure you join us post-game where we recap tonight's game and get you ready for the Red Hour. Make sure you join us tomorrow night at the Red Hour as well. Myself, Steve Walls, DJ Q, Sean Tyler. We'll see you down at the Soray Steak North House. But again, post-game, we'll be bringing you live post-game coverage from the press room with Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and other select Chiefs players. Until then, thank you so very much for joining us. This is the pregame cheat sheet. I'm Darren Smith with Steve Walls.